and welcome to the Rick House. Folks, my name is Cyrus Farmer, and you are watching and listening to the Stomp the Tee podcast, and we have a lot of ground to cover tonight. So, let me tell you exactly what you can expect to hear discussed. We're obviously going to be doing a wrap up of the NBA Finals, which I think was a tremendous cap to a tremendous postseason. So, we'll be doing that. We'll talk briefly also about the NBA versus the NFL and their off seasons. Which do you prefer and why? And of course, we will be getting into everyone's favorite segment. What are you drinking tonight? So, without further ado, let's get started. First and foremost, I would like to congratulate the Oklahoma City Thunder on winning their first NBA championship in Oklahoma City. I was very pleased and happy for that team, for that franchise, for their fan base. What a job they did. They were the best team all year, and they proved it throughout a tremendous playoff run. Good for them. Happy for them. They finally won something, and they have a chance to be good for a long time in the foreseeable future. Now, look, let's be fair. Let's be honest. Winning a championship does not guarantee additional championships. We talked about it last week, how Steve Williams said about Tiger's PGA championship win in 1999, how important that was because it was his second major win. And it backed up what he did at the Masters 2 years earlier in 1997, obviously. So there's no guarantee that the Oklahoma City Thunder will ever win anything else, but I think, and I suspect you do too, that they're going to be in the running for additional championships as time moves on. I do want to say this also. Felt very, very badly for Tyrese Halliburton. It's amazing. The body can try to tell you certain things, and either we can take the message that the body's trying to tell us, or, like Halliburton did, through no blame on my part, ignore those messages. The calf was telling him that, look, your Achilles is probably being strained to the point of being torn. But let's be fair and let's be honest. It was the NBA Finals. More importantly, it was the seventh game of the NBA Finals. He'd gotten through game 6, played well and sparingly, and you have to let it all hang out on game 7. So while I feel horribly bad that Tyrese Halliburton tore his Achilles in the first 7 minutes, I think, of Game 7. First 9 minutes of Game 7. I forget what the time marker was. I'm really proud of him, and I would have done the exact same thing had I been given the opportunity. It's Game 7. You take your chances. You play. You do what you can. And he was off to a tremendous start. There is no guarantee that the outcome would have been different had Halliburton been able to finish Game 7. But there is a guarantee for a fact. I can say this without proof. Had Halliburton played the entire game, it would have been a different game. We don't know if Indiana would have won. We don't know if Oklahoma City would have won. Who knows? But it would have been a different game. And for that reason, I salute Tyrese Halliburton and the Indiana Pacers. You did the best you could. You showed up, you produced, and you performed. But at the end of the day, Oklahoma City was just a better team this year. So I did want to, I wanted to say that. Um, it's funny to me, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. He was the deserved MVP of the uh, NBA Finals this season. But it is interesting. Um, he wasn't dominant. He was the best player in the finals, in my opinion. But he wasn't dominant every game of the finals. And, that's not a knock on SGA. That's literally just stating the facts as I see them. The interesting thing about SGA to me is that we all, myself included, look to compare him to Michael Jordan, which, it's a natural comparison. Jordan was a guard, SGA was a guard. Jordan won his first championship against the Lakers. SGA won his first championship against the Indiana Pacers. Not apples to apples, but just stating the facts. But I think if you look at SGA as a player, and if you look at his style of play, there was a better comp for SGA, and it's not Jordan. I think SGA is always going to be compared to Jordan, especially as he moves forward. But the better comp to me is Tim Duncan. Look, Jordan won 6 championships, 2 three-peats, one of the greatest players in the history of the NBA. But let's not forget, Tim Duncan won 5 championships in an era where it was difficult to win championships because Kobe won 5, Shaq won 4. It's, Tim Duncan was a big deal. And SGA's demeanor to me and his style of play, I think compares better to Duncan than Jordan, which is interesting. I think that Tim Duncan, obviously, is one of the top 10 players in the history of the NBA. But because of his demeanor, he kind of gets lost in the wash. I don't think anybody would classify him outside of the top 10. But because he was so, the big fundamental, he kind of gets lost in the discussion of great players. And for the post Kareem Abdul-Jabbar NBA, let's even say the post Magic Bird NBA, I'm not including Jordan in that. Tim Duncan, along with Kobe, is probably the greatest player of the last, 25 years? The last 25 years? Easily. And let's not forget, Duncan won his first championship, I think, in 1999 with David Robinson. So I think SGA is a better comparison to Tim Duncan than Michael Jordan. Now, the difference is, I believe when you listen to SGA talk, he kind of has a combination of Jordan and Duncan when you listen to him talk in post-game or pre-game press conferences. But I do believe he has probably more personality a la Jordan than Duncan did when it comes to just walking around in the street and or filming commercials and the like. So I think SGA is an interesting combination of 2 great players, 2 all-time greats, Jordan and Duncan, but I think Duncan is probably the better comparison. Let's not forget, the strength of SGA's game is the mid-range, the step back, the fadeaway. He can shoot threes, but he's not Steph Curry. He can drive to the basket, but he's not Kobe Bryant. SGA can win and be competitive and fierce, but he's not Michael Jordan. I think the thing about Shea Gilgeous-Alexander is he's a much better comparison to Tim Duncan than he is to Michael Jordan. And that is not a slight to any of the three names I just mentioned. Well done, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. Congratulations. That team is going to be really, really fun to follow and watch through the next few years. Now, I do have to say, I've been listening to different outlets uh, and following the coverage of the NBA Finals throughout. And one of the funny stories, anecdotes that I heard was that this was from NBA Radio, I believe, on Sirius XM. Someone said that the Thunder is such a young team that when they went into the locker room for the post-game celebration, Alex Caruso, obviously one of the veterans of the Thunder team, he was still on court doing another interview. And the Thunder allegedly had to wait before they popped the champagne bottles to start doing the champagne shower in the locker room because allegedly this team, no one on the team knew how to open a champagne bottle. Folks, I have to tell you, I don't know if that story is true or not. I think it's probably not true. Someone in that locker room, whether it's a player, a coach, someone knew how to open a champagne bottle. I just believe that to be the case. But the story is tremendous. It's a great anecdote to a championship team that is young in age. You can literally sell that as part of the mythology of the Oklahoma City Thunder franchise 24-25 team. What a great, great, great anecdote. Again, I don't know if it's true or not. This was something I heard on NBA radio, but if it were true, what a great story about the youth of this team. I thought it was really, I thought it was a really, really funny story and funny anecdote. Good way to end a wonderful postseason run by the NBA. Now, if we look at the Oklahoma City Thunder, obviously SGA was the MVP, but it's not like he wasn't without help. Obviously, Jalen Williams had a very good postseason and played a couple of really good finals games. I'm just going to speak from my own point of view. I have a hard time believing that Jalen Williams and SGA, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, will be teammates for 12 years, 8 years, 9 years, whatever length of time that Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen spent together with the Chicago Bulls. I should look that up. I just don't think that they're going to be together uh, for more than 5 more seasons. And that's a random number. It's an arbitrary number. It's a guess on my part. But Jalen Williams is so talented. And at some point, he's going to want his own team. And I just have a hard time believing that, look, Oklahoma City is going to pay Jalen Williams as much as they possibly can. They're going to max him out every chance they get. But I think at some point, Jalen Williams is going to want his own team and try to see what he can do without Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. Not out of spite, just because he believes in himself. And I think it's going to be fascinating to watch the dynamics of the Oklahoma City Thunder over the next 5, 7, 8, 9 years. They're going to be a must-watch franchise moving forward from here on out. Now, I think if you're the Indiana Pacers, you did what you could do. It was tough without Tyrese Halliburton. They competed. They showed up. You have nothing to be ashamed of. Obviously, they're not ashamed. They made it to Game 7 of the NBA Finals. Obviously, they have nothing to hang their heads about. Was it a tough loss? Absolutely. And I know almost every single Indiana Pacer fan is and will continue to do the what if game from now until the end of time. If we could have just gotten Tyrese in there and had him finish the game, we would have won. It would have been different. Da 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 da. That's fine. You've earned the right to speculate. You've earned the right to dream. But you have nothing to be ashamed for, you being the Indiana Pacer fan. Nothing at all. Your team did a great job. They were tremendous throughout the postseason, and they were this close to winning an NBA championship. So kudos, congratulations to the Indiana Pacers on a wonderful season. They were fantastic. We're going to talk more about the Pacers in a bit and where they could or should go from here. But let's talk a little bit about Game 7. I think Benedict Mathurin, and T.J. McConnell, obviously late in the fourth, midway through the fourth, they played as well as they could play. They had a chance to get their team back in it, and they actually got their team back in it, but they had a chance to actually really put a scare into the Oklahoma City Thunder and that fan base during Game 7. But I will say this. I never really felt like the Oklahoma City Thunder were going to lose the game. I felt like the game was getting tighter without question in the fourth quarter. But I personally did not feel like they got to the point to where they were going to lose the game. Could they lose the game? Yes, absolutely. You're watching live. No one knows what's going to happen next. And Indiana made a legitimate run, keyed by Benedict Mathurin and T.J. McConnell. But it never got to the point to me to where I thought they would win the game. Now, we talked about Mr. McConnell last week, and I know, I get it, I understand. I made a ridiculous suggestion to the Oklahoma City Thunder that they double team TJ McConnell because, in my opinion, TJ was hurting the Oklahoma City Thunder in ways that could cost them the championship in a Game 7. So, let's be fair. They being the Oklahoma City Thunder, did not double team TJ McConnell, which is fine. But I will say this. Every time Cason Wallace, and he's a very good young player, but every time he had TJ one-on-one, TJ cooked him. TJ cooked Cason Wallace. And the only player on the Oklahoma City Thunder, to me, that contained and controlled TJ McConnell during Game 7 was Lou Dort. And Lou, when Lou played him straight up, TJ was ineffective. Obviously, the steal, as TJ is leading the fast break and Lou Dort comes from behind to poke the ball away, where I think Indiana had a chance to get it to single digits at that point in the fourth quarter. to me, is the defensive play of the game. To everyone, it's the defensive play of the game. But I thought, for whatever reason, Mark, the Oklahoma City coach, why not have Lou Dort guard McConnell the entire time he's in the game on Game 7? Lou Dort did a great job of neutralizing McConnell, in my opinion. But who am I to question the Oklahoma City Thunder coach? He won a championship. I did not. So it all worked out in the end. But I will tell you this, Casey Wallace could not guard TJ McConnell. Now, 2 years from now, yeah, he could probably guard him. But he couldn't guard him during this series, in my opinion. I have to say, I have been listening to the NBA channel on Sirius XM, and they do a wonderful job. Now, I've been a listener to Sirius XM for years now, probably about 15 years. My wife actually turned me on to Sirius XM. I was like, why would you ever pay for radio? But she was into it, and we got a subscription, and I've been listening ever since, and it's been great. I'm a big NFL channel guy, obviously. Mad Dog Radio. I listen to the news channels, this, that, and the other. But I will say, I just discovered regularly the NBA channel. And all those guys do such a great job. Rob Perez, uh, uh, Justin Termini, Eddie Johnson. They do a really, really nice work. And they break down basketball in a very easy way. Shout out to the NBA channel on Sirius XM. But I will say this, folks, do yourselves a favor. If you have Sirius XM and you are a late comer like myself to the NBA channel, tune in, listen, because the best thing on the entire channel when he's on is Sam Mitchell. Sam Mitchell, folks, is such a great listen. Sam Mitchell, big man, obviously, former center, played for the Minnesota Timberwolves, played for the Indiana Pacers, coached the Toronto Raptors, won, I think, Coach of the Year for the Toronto Raptors, and also coached the Minnesota Timberwolves. Sam, his breakdown and knowledge of the game is just so refreshing. It's very unvarnished. It's very plain spoken, but he knows the game. He knows basketball. I remember watching Sam Mitchell play. He wasn't an all-time great player, but he was a solid NBA center. He was in the league and deserved to be in the league and played well. But as a coach, I remember him coaching as well. He just gives you so many insights into the game. So do yourselves a favor. If you haven't done it already, listen to the NBA channel on Sirius XM. I think you're going to get a big kick out of it. And whenever you can catch Sam Mitchell, definitely tune in and turn it up. Sam Mitchell is absolutely great. I did want to talk a little bit about the NBA offseason and the NFL offseason. Now, for those of you who know, the NFL actually did their mini camps in the last couple of weeks, which is great. They kind of tease their offseason out throughout the entire non-playing season. But we also just had the NBA draft. Now, I want you to remember this, right? The NFL plays the Super Bowl in early February. They don't hold their draft until about 3 months later, in like mid to late April. The NBA just finished the NBA Finals, and less than a week after that finished, they have held and concluded their draft. Which do you prefer? I have to say, one of the things the NFL does incredibly well is provide 12-month programming for their fans. I mean, you have the Super Bowl, then you have you have the Super Bowl, then you have the combine, NFL combine, then you have the draft, then you have OTAs, then you have the schedule release, then you have training camp, and then you're back in the season, which is great. It makes the NFL a 12-month endeavor if you are a fan, which I happen to be. No one does it better than the NFL. But I will say this. There is something to be said about turning the page on a season. And no one, and I mean no one, does that better than the NBA. Look, you have a regular season game, regular season, and then you have the postseason in the NBA. Then you have the finals in the NBA. Then you have the draft literally less than a week after the finals ends. Then you have the Las Vegas Summer League. And then the NBA is done, basically, until October. So you can literally shut the books on basketball, if you're a fan, by the end of July. And, do everything else, clear your mind, and then check back in when they start their preseason and their training camps in October. It is awesome. Is it better than the NFL? For the casual fan, probably not. But for the basketball fan, it is really, really hard to beat the way the NBA kind of compresses everything and gets it out of the way so that you as a fan get time off just like the players, the coaches, the franchises. So again, this is just my opinion, but I really like the way the NBA handles their business. Let's be fair. I love the way the NFL teases out their season 12 months a year. I love it. But there is something to be said for being able to close the books and turn the page, which is what the NBA does incredibly well. Congratulations, by the way, to Cooper Flag, the number one pick in the draft, and to some of the other picks that happened as well. Dylan Harper, who went to the San Antonio Spurs, VJ Edgecombe, who went to the Philadelphia 76ers. I was listening to NBA radio earlier this morning, and they were talking about, will any of these players who were drafted last night was the first night of the draft, be transcendent? Cooper Flag, whomever, Ace Bailey, whomever it is, right? And they got on to a sidetrack conversation about Wilt Chamberlain. And folks, let me tell you a little bit about Wilt Chamberlain. Look, there's a reason people talk about Wilt Chamberlain to this day. Wilt was a rookie in 1959, the 1959-1960 season. And he was the first man in the history of the NBA to win Rookie of the Year and to be the league's MVP as a rookie. It had never happened before. It only happened one time since. And I think that was Wes Unseld in 1969, I believe. 68, 69, something like that, for the Baltimore Bullets. Let me tell you a little bit about Wilton Norman Chamberlain. In 1959, let's not forget, by 1959, Russell entered the NBA in 1957, and 59 was his third year. Elgin Baylor entered the NBA in 1958, so 1959 was his second year. Why did Wilt Chamberlain win the MVP as a rookie of the NBA in 1959? I can tell you why. He averaged 38 points a game, along with, wait for it, 27 rebounds a game. Guys, we're going to talk about this later this summer. I'm telling you, we are going to do a comparison between Wilt Chamberlain and Babe Ruth. Wait for it. I'm telling you, it's going to happen. I'm going to do a deep dive into both, and we'll decide, you and I, as an audience and as a host and as a show, as a community, we are going to decide who was the most dominant player in their sport, Babe Ruth or Wilt Chamberlain. It's coming. But that's why people talk about Wilt. He averaged 38 points a game. He averaged 27 rebounds as a rookie. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Wilt Chamberlain, I'm telling you. Now, this brings me back to the NBA, and it brings me back to the Indiana Pacers. Folks, I have to say, they had a great run, as I said earlier. But I have a case to make. And to me, the case for Giannis Antetokounmpo, you know what I mean, for Giannis to go to the Indiana Pacers is plain. I understand the Indiana Pacers got to the NBA Finals. I understand the Indiana Pacers got to Game 7 of the NBA Finals. I understand the Indiana Pacers were a torn Achilles injury away from possibly winning the NBA championship. All that being said, I get it. But if you are the Indiana Pacers right now, you got to make a call to Milwaukee. You got to try to get Giannis Antetokounmpo for your team, because Giannis might actually put you over the top. Why do you get Giannis? I know there are people out there who are, let's say, annoyed with Giannis's penchant to play point forward, right? It means he dominates the ball as a forward, hangs out at the top of the key, dribbling the ball. I get that. But what I don't get is how you, anyone who doesn't want Giannis, could not want a guy who's a two-time MVP, who is a go-to player, who scores 30 points a game. How could you not want that guy on your team? If you get Giannis, you being the Indiana Pacers, if you get Giannis this offseason, you bridge the gap between the Halliburton injury. He's going to miss all of 2026, if not most of 2026. If he comes back, that's fine. But you're going to be careful with Tyrese Halliburton. So he's going to miss all of 2026 in most likely. Why not bring Giannis in to actually get him acclimated to Indiana, to actually let him run this team on his own, get him like his feet wet in the culture of Indiana basketball. And then in 2027, you have Giannis and you have Tyrese Halliburton, a guy who's your go-to player in Giannis, and a guy who can take and make big shots, proven in Tyrese Halliburton. Folks, I'm telling you, this is what the Indiana Pacers should do. And the funniest thing about it is they have the assets to go get Giannis. I mean, they really, really do. Can you imagine? I'm gonna give you a couple of different trade proposals that I think is probably going to get the job done if you're Milwaukee. If you're Indiana, why not call up Milwaukee and say, hey, we'll give you Nesmith, Siakam, and McConnell, along with 2 or 3, 4 second round picks. You don't think that would actually get Giannis over to Indiana? How about, offering Matherin and Nimhard and 4 or 5 second round, third round, first round picks? You don't think that would get Giannis to Indiana? Can you imagine a lineup of Giannis, Halliburton, Nimhard, Turner, and Matherin? Let's say you go the other way with the trade, all right? How about a lineup of Giannis, Halliburton, Nesmith, Siakam, and Shepard? It makes so much sense. And that's either one of those iterations. That's a team that could win the NBA championship. Folks, I'm telling you, Indiana, you should make acquiring Giannis job one. Because again, there is no reason to have a lost season. And I understand. People talk about chemistry all the time. Why bring Giannis in? They have a chemistry that's set. So look, that chemistry is going to be disrupted next year, regardless of whether you bring Giannis in or not, because Halliburton is going to be out. So that chemistry is going to be challenged, whether you bring Giannis in or not. Why not bring Giannis in and actually give yourself a chance to make yet another playoff push, yet another playoff run, and then set yourself up for the future with a Giannis Halliburton duo? Think about it, Indiana. Think about it. All right. So now we have come to my favorite part of this show. And let's be fair, I think it's your favorite part of the show as well. I get to ask you a question, and that question is, what are you drinking tonight? Well, I can tell you what I'm drinking, and that is, now, bear with me because I have to make sure I pronounce this correctly. I'm drinking Shizuoka single malt Japanese whiskey. Folks, this is the 2024 edition. Those of you who are watching on YouTube can see the bottle. I'm going to tell you a little bit about this product, and then I'm going to tell you what I think about this product. Folks, the Shizuoka single malt whiskey. Now, this is the Pot Still W, which if you're watching on YouTube, you can see right here. I'm pointing at it. It is distilled by Giaflow Shizuoka Distillery, and it is distilled, matured, and bottled in Shizuoka, Japan. It is 55.5% ABV, which brings it in at 111 proof. Now, this bottle I paid $67 for in Japan. It's pot still and it's wood fired. More on that later. It is aged in ex bourbon barrels and in new American oak barrels, which is the barrel that all bourbon is aged in. Difference is they char the barrels to make the bourbon. I believe this Japanese malt whiskey uses ex-bourbon barrels and uncharred American oak barrels. Not sure about that, but that's my suspicion based off the research I did. Now, the mash bill. It is 100% barley, but it is 70%, 70% peated Scottish barley, 20%, 20, non-peated Scottish barley, and 10% German barley. Okay. According to what I was able to find online, it is aged anywhere from 3 to 5 years. What do I think of Shizuoka, Japanese malted single malt whiskey? Well, I think it drinks at proof. I think it drinks at 111 proof. It's not super burny, but it's not light in the sense of you don't taste the burn at all. The burn is there, and it drinks at proof. But I will say this, it also drinks elegant. There are subtle flavors that you notice. I have to tell you, this whiskey is in the running for Whiskey of the Year for What Are You Drinking Tonight, 2025. I really like it. I really like it a lot, especially at $67 a bottle. Now, there is a huge, huge negative. But I will say this, spoiler alert. The negative is not enough for me not to acquire the bottle at the price I got it at again, given the opportunity. I know what you're saying, thinking. You're like, Cyrus, what is the negative? Folks, those of you watching on YouTube, I'm showing you the bottle. This bottle is 500 milliliters. Standard whiskey bottle is 750 milliliters, right? So this essentially is the size of a large vinegar bottle for $67. But I like the whiskey so much, I would buy it again. I really, really would. Would I love to see it in a 700 milliliter bottle? A 750 milliliter bottle, which is, again, standard. Absolutely. Who knows how much they would charge me for it? But I would probably be willing to pay for it. I like it that much. This Shizuoka single malt Japanese whiskey, pot still W. The pot still W is basically is a designation because it means that it's wood fired. They use these pot stills and the heat source, which gets up to 800 degrees Celsius. I don't know what it is Fahrenheit, but it gets up to 800 degrees Celsius. And that's what they use to distill the malt barley to produce this whiskey. And so that's why it's designated as pot still W, W being for wood. I would buy this again. And I'm going to tell you, Should I get back to Japan between now and whenever, I will look to actually go to this distillery and purchase more of their product because I enjoy it that much. Give yourself a chance to enjoy Shizuoka single malt Japanese whiskey. I do not think you will be disappointed. But let's be fair. You might be disappointed if you have to pay $300 for this bottle. Again, I got this for $67. Completely worth it. It was a steal. Anyway, that is the show for tonight. Don't forget to tell your friends. Don't forget to tell your enemies. Watch, listen, enjoy the Stomp the Tee podcast because we are here for you. We do what we can to provide you the most interesting, the most compelling content in any format, anywhere that you can find. So don't forget, spread the word. The Stomp the Tee podcast is here. We are here for you. And that is tonight's show. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. My name is Cyrus Farmer. This is the Stomp the Tee podcast. We will be right back at you next week with another scintillating episode. But until then, we will see you on the first tee.